Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about landlords. Oh, one of my favorite subjects, landlords. Lords of the land, the landed gentry, the very bedrock of the capitalist class. Now, if you ever listen to a landlord tell it, they make it sound like they are doing a good deed, for the world at large. They'll tell you they're providing homes for people, and that, if it wasn't for them, where would these destitute people live? They're real givers like that, the landlords of the capitalist class. Thanks to the CARES Act and then the CDC moratorium, landlords have been unable to evict people, which, I'm sure they hate doing because, again, they're landlords due to their natural inclination towards benevolence and kindness, their giving spirit. So now they're all mad because they can't evict people, the giving spirit thing too. But so it's gotten so bad that landlords, they're crying out, please, what about us? Think of us. We're poor bereft landlords. Could you spare a crust, please? Please, sir, may I have more? May I have more? Boo-hoo, right? Okay, maybe I'm being a tad harsh, so here's what I'm going to do. We are going to listen to the complaints of these landlords and their plight. Then, we're going to listen to the plight of people that rent from landlords. And then each of us as individuals can make our own determination as to whether or not all landlords are parasites. Over the past 30 years, Maral Boyadin has built up a family real estate business consisting of 8 homes in Southern California that she and her husband rent out. Quote, some people spend their money on a bigger home or better car or travel, but we live modestly. Whatever money we can put together, we spend it on buying another single-family home to rent. Now, I know we're pretty early in here, but I'm going to have to take a moment and, just pick, just for a second, okay? Some people spend their money on a bigger home or better car or travel. Oh, those bougie people who buy 4,000 square foot houses and go on vacation. Oh, we're not those people. Those people are horrible. I hear they extract wealth from other people. They're the worst. We're not like them. No, we live modestly. Modestly. Like, we just own a whole bunch of land and homes. It's very modest. Typically, the rents from the homes enable the couple to cover all of their expenses and earn income. Earn income. Are they really earning it? But now tenants in 3 of their properties in the San Fernando Valley haven't paid their rent for months. Oh, you dirtbags. You're the worst, you crappy working class tenants. Look at you. Look at you. If you don't pay your rent, how are these people going to afford their modest lifestyle? They're literally living your next paycheck to your next paycheck. Why don't you maybe think of somebody else, okay? Instead of being all lazy and entitled and selfish and, keeping all your money to yourself, why don't you pay your rent so this sweet couple can return to living modestly, okay? Quote, owning a property and collecting rent on it is my way of making a living, she said. There's been no government aid coming my way. Our income has been sliced. We don't get unemployment. No, you don't get unemployment. See, unemployment insurance is paid to laborers and members of the working class who lose their job. You don't have a job, so you don't get unemployment. You own properties, so you don't get sympathy. Do you know why? Because you are a member of the capitalist class who solely exists to extract wealth from other people. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I being harsh again? I forgot. I was supposed to be neutral through this. Hold on. Woosah. So far, she's been able to continue to meet her financial obligations. She makes property tax payments and pays the insurance. Basically, what they're saying is she's doing all the things that she is responsible for, but her renters, they're irresponsible. We've been able to pay our mortgages, but we're really in danger of not being able to on 2 properties, she said. This is not sustainable. I'm sorry. we've been able to pay our mortgages. Are you paying your mortgages, or are your tenants paying your mortgages? Quote, the government is putting property owners in a situation where they are supposed to be the backstop, and many will say, I can no longer afford to be in this business. Now, here's where I am going to give you a schmeckle of sympathy, okay? The federal government has abandoned you, just like they abandoned the working class. So at least in this respect, you are on equal footing with the working class. Only I don't feel badly for you because your life plan was to exist off them while you did as little as humanly fucking possible. So yes, the federal government abandoned you just like it abandoned everybody else. Guess what? You don't get special treatment just because you happen to know the name of a mortgage broker, or you hang out with Sue, who works at the local Bank of America down the road from your house. I don't give a fuck if you and Sue play cricket on the weekends. You and Sue can both go fuck yourselves, okay? You're both fucking leeches. Damn it, I'm supposed to be neutral. Ah! Okay, it's obvious I can't be neutral, so why don't we go take a look at what all these landlords who are begging for your sympathy are currently up to, okay? The CDC banned evictions for those affected by COVID. Why are tenants being thrown out on the street? Wait a minute, I thought they couldn't do that and we're supposed to feel bad for landlords. Remember? They're the ones who are providing a much needed service, being benevolent and giving people a place to live, and yet in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of winter, they're evicting people even against a federal order banning them from doing so. The day before Thanksgiving, Steve Cowley, a beverage salesman, was at home in Pensacola, Florida, when someone started pounding on the front door. It was the county sheriff serving an eviction notice. Cowley had nowhere to go. Out of work because of COVID-19 and behind on his rent, he was doing his best to survive on $275 a week unemployment checks. His car had already been repossessed, he said, so he could not live in it. A common refuge for evicted tenants. You know, the people who are removed by landlords that you're supposed to feel badly for. The sheriff's visit surprised Cowley because he'd provided the county court with documentation required under the federal eviction moratorium issued in September by the CDC. The ban aimed to let renters affected by COVID stay in their homes even if they couldn't pay their landlords. But Patricia Kinsey, the only judge hearing eviction cases in Escambia County, where Pensacola sits, ordered Cowley out of his home. Kinsey sided with a lawyer for Cowley's landlord, a big Canadian company that owns 19,000 rental units in North America, who'd argued that the CDC order was unconstitutional. Agreeing with the landlord's lawyer, Kinsey ruled that the CDC moratorium represented, quote, unlawful taking by the U.S. government of landlords' private property, rental income. When Cowley was evicted from his Pensacola apartment, he was awaiting a rental assistance check to put towards a new place. As he packed up, he was philosophical. Quote, I had a stroke 7 years ago, he told NBC. I taught myself not to get stressed. If it's not in your hands, there's nothing you can do. Cowley had lived in his apartment for almost 9 years. His landlord is Morguard, a publicly traded Canadian company that owns $15 billion in real estate assets. Oh, pity the landlord. Pity the landlord with $15 billion in assets. Huh? What about them? Think of them. Amanda Frank, 39, in Ohio, became homeless in November when a judge ruled against her in an eviction proceeding. For a year, Frank had rented a townhouse from a local contractor and builder, where she lived with her boyfriend and 17-year-old daughter. Frank had fallen behind on her rent after her boyfriend was laid off due to COVID, she said. Although she received rental assistance from a local church and ultimately paid her landlord what she owed, the judge hearing her case sided with the landlord, saying she'd been able to pay the rent, but had not done so on time. So the landlord gets to extract all the money from her via a church, people she knows, what little savings she has, and then the judge and the landlord kick her out anyway. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. She was given a week to get out, and at 3 p.m. on the last day as she was packing, the landlord's representatives arrived and started tossing her belongings into the yard. Quote, they broke a lot of my things by throwing them out the door, said Frank, who's never been evicted before. That was one of the most devastating things I ever had to go through. Landlords evict hundreds of Utah renters each month despite a ban during the pandemic. Dan Knighton was holding on to everything he could, but was still losing his grip. His marriage ended, and the pandemic cost him his job as a facilities manager for a chain of movie theaters. His landlord was willing to work with him through the summer. As fall approached, and new management took over the Legacy Crossing Apartments in Centerville, Utah, sympathy for Knighton's plight ran out at the same time as his federal unemployment checks. Imagine that. The sympathy of landlords only extends as long as your personal line of credit. Quote, I just got divorced after 20 years, just lost my job after 20 years, and then having to go through that, he said with a pause. It's been pretty depressing. Utah is notorious for its 3-day eviction notices that give renters little time to try to scrape together back rent, get assistance from a lawyer, or even load up all their belongings. But the state law was preempted by the CARES Act passed by Congress in March. So it's worth pointing out here that if you are a landlord and you have a mortgage and that mortgage was secured through a federally backed loan, you don't own that property. The government does. They're the lender. They own the property. You are the asshole who takes the money from the people who live there, skim a little bit off the top, and then you give the rest of the money back to the actual property owner. That's not you. You don't own the property, nor do you have a job, which means you are, survey says, a parasite. Knighton said not only was he evicted, he was given only a weekend to clear out, not enough time to take everything with him, and he had to leave behind a washer and a dryer, among other belongings. He moved in with a friend. His younger brother, who had been living with him at Legacy Crossing, now sleeps in his car. You know who isn't sleeping in their car? Every last person who's invested in Legacy Crossing Apartments. They're all sleeping just fine at home because they have a home. Quote, they were absolutely not willing to cooperate with us at all, Knighton said. They actually called me out on Friday and said, I need you out of your apartment by Monday. You know why? Because fuck you, that's why. The Culmore Firm is the state's largest filer of evictions, and the firm's head, Kirk A. Culmore, is a past president of the Utah Apartment Association, the state lobby group for landlords. His son, Kirk Culmore Jr., is a Republican state senator from Cottonwood Heights, who is also listed on the firm's website as being, quote, the government affairs chair for the Utah Apartment Association and on the executive board of the National Association of Real Estate Property Managers. It's almost like capitalists and government come together to form a synergy known as plutocrats, the ultimate form of evil. If you take 5 shit-sipping capitalists and you cram them together, they form into giant, shitty, plutocratic Voltron. It's the evolution. This is why combining capitalism with government is quite literally the worst fucking thing you can do. And just in case you weren't pissed off enough yet, and there was still one of you out there who was watching this going, I think these landlords, they're getting a really bad shake here. Maybe we should think of the landlords. Yeah. Missouri landlord removes woman's front door after she loses job due to COVID. The struggling mother who is unemployed because of the coronavirus pandemic found her front door had been removed last week after she missed 2 rent payments. A cruel and seemingly illegal move that sparked outrage and an outpouring of support in her community. Quote, he's always been a good landlord. I guess it just took one slip up, Hannah McGee told a local news station. There are no good landlords. That was your first mistake. The heartbreaking story shocked local attorneys and a person who's trying to buy the property. The buyer apparently told the landlord to put the door back on, which happened shortly after her interview aired this week. Oh, that's right. Shame. Shame will work. The problem here, though, is that you can't shame an $18 billion company in Canada that owns 500 fucking rental units down the block from your house. That's not a thing. You can't shame them into letting people have a place to live in the middle of a pandemic when nobody has a job, even though all you're concerned with is your bottom line. And if you can get little Susie fucking riding lessons at her bougie summer camp this summer. McGee, who lives in the St. Louis suburb of Fenton, said that she's rented the apartment for 3 years and has never had an issue. She said she's struggling to pay rent and fix her broken down car because she recently lost her job at a restaurant. McGee was also forced to place her closet doors in the space her landlord left open after removing her front door. Quote, at night, it definitely gets really cold. It's kind of unbearable without it. One of her friends set up an online fundraiser. It's driven nearly $7,000 in donations so far. God, I fucking hate this. Hey, all of you out there, stop printing these feel-good stories about how people came together and helped somebody, okay? GoFundMe should not be the leading fucking supplier of health insurance in the United States of America. And it sure as shit shouldn't be how fucking working class people get to stay in a home during the middle of a fucking pandemic. Stop pandering to the capitalist class. Stop that bullshit. Just stop. So here's the bottom line, people. Landlords, lords of the land, landed gentry, the capitalist class, they do not care about you one iota. If you are a worker, if you are a member of the working class, if your relationship to capital is one in so much that you do not have the ability to capture more capital because all of your potential resources are going towards paying your landlord, then guess what? You don't owe them shit. You don't owe them your sympathy. You don't owe them your attention. You owe them nothing. They solely exist to extract your wealth. They are parasites, okay? So regardless of wherever it is you live where you're watching this video, it is time for you to start organizing with your neighbors and your friends and your family, because very soon it is going to be all-out class warfare. And there are a hell of a lot more of you than there are of them. My name is James, and I'm from the internet, and I'm out. Peace.